And welcome back to another episode of the Indy Investor Pod. We are Indy investors talking Indy investing, and we are going to keep it rolling here with this part of the show. So if you joined us last week, we talked about just outside of the loop of Indianapolis, thinking about it in terms of a clock. We went from 12 o'clock of Carmel down to 6 o'clock of Greenwood, just going around the loop. And we are going to continue that today, going from the south over the west side up back into the north. So with that, let's get on with the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Indy Investor Pod. My name is Brian Steiner. I got Randy Placencia joining me here today, and we are going to keep it rolling with thinking about outside the loop of Indianapolis. Just kind of, it's been the hot topic. A lot of investors have been reaching out to us, asking questions, picking up properties, things like that. So we thought it would be important to do a show and just kind of go a little bit more in depth on some of these areas, mention some little towns, cities, that maybe you haven't heard of, and kind of what people are doing there, what investors are doing for properties that are buying from us, and really just kind of talk a little bit more about it, bring some exposure to some of these areas, and that type of stuff. So it's just kind of crazy when you think of outside the loop of just kind of the adjustment that some of these areas have made over the last couple of years. And we mentioned some of them, on our last episode, looking at things like, like Fortville and Greenfield and things like that have made some pretty big transformations considering where they were maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or whatever. So seeing those transitions, we're going to see some of those same transitions moving into some of these areas over here on the south that we go along the west side, back up into the north, into places like Whitestown, which is completely just blowing up. And one of the biggest developments going on in Indianapolis or in Indiana right now, as far as statewide.
Mm-hmm.
So it's huge. So we're going to talk about some of that stuff. So Randy's, we're moving kind of from the north and east side over into the south and west, back over to the north. What are some tips, or what are some just little things you have for us kind of coming out of the east side, moving into more of the west side of Indianapolis?
Yeah, I think as we're going to pick up kind of, we're at that 6-7 o'clock area, but as you kind of come around the clock there, I think it's good. There's some good towns where people can come in and get a property probably cheaper than most other areas around the loop.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more smaller communities that you can come in and low price to entry, and I think there's a lot of opportunity here. So
Yeah,
excited to talk about it.
it's kind of funny. Of one of these, I think when I first. So Randy's been doing the sales for us for 2 years, and I did the sales for our company the year before that. And I think one of the first month or two that I was doing selling the properties for us and stuff, I had an investor reach out and basically like, hey, I'm looking for something around Decatur. Like I need, something down there. And I'm just like, I have no idea. I'm like trying to figure things out, like on the fly, like looking at it and stuff. I'm like, what is this place? Like, I'm not from Indianapolis, so I didn't know about it. I was still kind of new. And it's like, I just been in real estate for like 5 months, I think, at this point and stuff. I'm just like, what is going on? What is Decatur and stuff? But then I realized like, oh, all these little areas down through there. I drive through these all the time, driving down to Brown County. So I'm like, oh, okay, these are pretty cool. So now when I go down to Brown County, I'm like, okay, let's duck back into this subdivision or this neighborhood and check out some of these areas and things. There's some pretty cool stuff going on. I think there's a lot of things. We're talking about kind of the southeast side, and we're talking about Homecroft and Southport and Greenwood and even like over in Cumberland. I feel like they kind of mirror each other a little bit of what you're going to kind of see on the southwest side as well, where you got some development. You're going to be able to do a little bit of you're going to be able to do rentals, but you're going to be able to do some flips and stuff too. So I know when you go out into even down into like Mooresville, some areas to do some flips and stuff like that, you have families that live down there that you can be able to sell a house to. So you can fix it up and sell it on the retail market and things. So you're going to be able to do a lot of that stuff. I think there is some pretty good opportunity there. Randy kind of mentioned the price point. I feel like the price point is a little bit lower down some of the areas. I have noticed though, like with Mooresville and stuff like that, people don't sell as much. They want to stay in those areas for a little bit longer. So if you do pick up a house down there, like knowing that you can flip it and stuff, that family's going to want to live there, or even rentals. The rental market, I feel like the tenants seem to stay a little bit longer too, down in those areas as well, which is good. So kind of coming up, we kind of mentioned the area, right around like 38th and Post, things like that over when we're talking about the east side. One of those other pockets that I see that tends to pop up is kind of the southwest side, kind of outside the loop of Mars Hill. So if you're looking at that kind of that little pocket of, south of the airport, south of 465, kind of down around in there. That's kind of other area of, I've heard some people say, kind of Thompson Road area, where I've heard some people say, hey, this is really good. I can do kind of whatever I want down there as far as investing goes. I've heard some people say like, hey, I'm never going to be down around there. Like, that's not the area for me and stuff. So I think it's just another area that you have to pay attention to, make sure that you're comfortable with kind of the street you're on and things like that. I was talking to, sorry, Randy, I'll give you a chance here in a second. I know I'm getting a little long-winded,
You're good, man.
but I was talking to an investor the other day, and their property manager really, he picked up a property down. It was off of Kentucky Avenue, back in one of the little subdivisions back there and stuff. But his property manager focuses a lot like on the kind of the north side and around Broad Ripple and things like that. And his property manager was having some trouble down in here because it's a different language. It's a different story. So make sure that when you are renting things out, or you're doing, even your contractors, things like that, whatever you're doing down here, make sure they're used to certain areas. And that goes not even just for this area. It reminded me of that because we're talking about it. But whatever you are around Indianapolis, especially outside the loop, it's different when you are, downtown versus when you are, down in Decatur or you're out in Greenfield and stuff. It is a different language. There's different regulations and things. So make sure that whoever you're using, property manager, contractors, whatever, they kind of know what's going on with the different areas. And who's ever running your comps, they understand it as well. And they're used to dealing in some of those areas. So, Randy, when you're looking at anything from, I guess you're looking at like 6 o'clock all the way over to like 70 and stuff to the airport area and stuff like that. When you think about that area, what kind of really jumps out to you, and what kind of, what should investors be excited about or on the lookout for, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. I think just that zone right there, from like that area you just mentioned, and then down to Mooresville. From my experience, I see like anyone doing something there they're going to be like local investors. So people that are most familiar with that little pocket is kind of what I've been seeing. Not saying that anyone out of state wouldn't be successful investing there. You definitely could. But you're probably going to want to make sure that your property manager, your contractor is also familiar with that area. It's just what I've personally seen. People doing the best in those zones are just people that are just either they grew up down there or pretty close to it, and they kind of just know what's going on. Because I think it kind of falls off the map for people's radar. Typically, that southwest area of Indy kind of does all the way around, but outside the loop, that little pocket, I don't see many people talking about it. Still, a lot of opportunity there. That's why I think a lot of the locals are scooping up any deals there right now. Mm-hmm. But if something pops up, even a little bit around Mooresville, past Mooresville, take a look at it. It's probably going to be pretty affordable as far as like the deal goes, but definitely an area to consider.
Yeah, I would say in this area too, if you're interested in this area and things, I would say that you are definitely, if you are interested in this area and you want to do some especially rentals, things like that, I would say look on the market for some of these deals. Because I do know just from somebody that buys 300 properties a year around Indianapolis, like sellers down in this area are tougher. Like it's tougher to pick up properties down around this area. So I would say they're more than likely going to, put it on the market and things like that. So as far as someone that is, like I said, buying properties and offering cash for properties and stuff like that, that's how we're picking them up. It's tougher to negotiate with some of the people down in this area and stuff like that. So I feel like they're kind of a little bit, going to put them on the market and stuff like that. So you can find properties down there around there like that. So just something to keep in mind as well as you're coming through there. Let's move around kind of, so we have basically the airport down that southwest side of Indianapolis. Really, I think anything around the airport, I think it brings a lot of really good opportunity. I think you can kind of do anything around there. If you kind of come out a little bit, you have Plainfield. There's a water park that's actually really good. If you're in town in the summertime when it's nice, have some kids and stuff like that, that water park is great. My nieces and nephews love it out there and stuff. Plainfield, I think it's a great area where you can solid rental market. I look at that of like, man, if I can get in Plainfield and, get a 3-1 ranch or 3-2 ranch down there and rent it out, man, I'm going to be sitting pretty for the next, for the long term and stuff like that. I do think you do some quick flips down there as well. But that's what I think of when I think of Plainfield and really what you can do kind of down in that area of like pick it up, rent it out. I think it's an investor's dream kind of down in that area and kind of moves up into, Avon, which you're going to be kind of do the same thing. Tough to find properties, picking them up. The values have gone up in some of these areas as well. But when you can get a property at the right price point, you're probably going to have to put some work into it. You're probably going to pay a pretty penny to be able to get something that's like turnkey, ready to, turn over and stuff. But if you have the, basically, if you can find that one that you're going to put a little bit of work into, you can probably get that for the right price. But you're going to be able to get the right price or the right rent out of it as well. So, and you're also going to be able to find those areas too, where that's heavy homeowners, and then, just a little of a heavy homeowner area, and putting a rental in there. I think you can definitely do that in these areas, which is always solid when you're talking about rentals, things around there. So, Randy, do you have anything more like Plainfield, Avon, those areas?
Yeah, so you mentioned just being around that airport, I think is good. Anything around there is a safe bet. And plus, if there's anyone that's not from Indianapolis buying property there, and you're flying into Indy, I mean, you got a place to stay now, right by the airport, man. All right, so you can buy a house to stay in while you're in town, and then when you're not here, rent that sucker out. But I think that's great there. There's all these little towns, like you said, Avon, Plainfield. Those are part of Hancock County and Hancock County. No, Hendricks County. I had to get those.
I was like, nah.
Hendricks, yeah. But yeah, so compared to the other areas we talked to on last episode, 270,000 is the average price. So you've got a huge buyer pool. You got first-time buyers, second-time buyers, people that want to downsize. So there's a lot of flips that go on here just because of that. Your buyer pool is very large. It's a very affordable place to live.
So I want to talk about, I kind of split the middle there of Avon and stuff, but I do want to kind of talk about a little bit closer, like back towards the loop, and then also out past Avon. So like in Danville area, we've done a couple deals out there and stuff. And like, honestly, this is an area that I don't know about it, but I'm by there because I know I can sell there. That's like the extent of it. I've been through Danville twice, so I apologize for not knowing a ton about it. But when I see property there, I'm like, man, I'm going to pick it up because I know I can be able to sell it. So a lot of investors can't look there. You can rent there. You can also fix and flip there and stuff like that. So the ones that we've picked up there, we've sold on the retail market and like sold super quick. So some of those areas, you can also find there's still areas where you can kind of find land around there, which is kind of amazing, which is, obviously the further you get out from the loop, you can find a little bit more land. The closer you get, man, it's really tough and it's really expensive and things. But Danville, I just want to put a little plug in there for Danville because I do think that's an area that, if you're doing Avon, I think you can definitely look at Danville as well. If you're doing Plainfield, you can look at Danville as well, because I think you can do some really good stuff there, as far as whatever your strategy is. If it's fix and flip, if it is rentals, you can do that. You can also buy and sell on owner financing in any of these areas as well, because you can get a good price point and then sell it to somebody that does need that. Hey, I need the financing, or I can't qualify for traditional mortgage. Can you guys help me out? Those are opportunities that are there. I especially see that opportunity. We've done a lot of these deals. If you come back on the east side of Avon, in between Avon and 465, this seems to be a pocket right around there that I feel like we've done 5 really solid deals where we've found good properties for good prices and then just sold them on owner financing. So if you're doing some fix and flips, or even if you're holding properties, being able to sell on owner financing, be able to hold that note and be the bank, I think there's some good opportunity around here on that, on this west side of 465. So I think it's pretty solid. For sure. So Randy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, that whole area of Avon, it's actually a very large area. Tons of little subdivisions popping up everywhere. But yeah, like you said, between 465 and like Avon on the map, which like 267, it looks like, that whole pocket there is just full of homes, full of opportunity, all kinds of houses. But yeah, I think owner financing on this west side outside the loop is definitely a hot thing to do.
Yeah. So then coming up a little bit north, so we have, the Eagle Creek Reservoir area. Awesome area. Love that area out there and stuff. But within that, just south of there is, I've talked about this area before, is Claremont. So I think Claremont's a great area. I think it's kind of, it's that like typical Class B type area, to where basically people that are, when you get into like the Traders Point area, even Brownsburg now and stuff like that, the houses are a little bit more expensive and things. But the Claremont area,
Yeah.
they still have this is the exact same type of homes, but they're cheaper. They're more affordable. So something to consider there. Really good area. It's also kind of expanding. There's still, kind of like we talked about with some of these other areas, there's still some land around there. So the areas are expanding a little bit. You can do some more things out there. This would be an area too. I mentioned this on the, over on the east side. We're talking about, around Fortville and stuff like that of Claremont, where you could probably pick up a new build and just straight up rent it out if you have the financing behind it and stuff like that. So be a decent area to come into with that. And then before we get into Brownsburg and stuff, Randy, let's just kind of talk about just the Eagle Creek Reservoir, just kind of anything around there. I would say good luck finding a home around there. If you do, let me know, because I'm in the market for one for myself around there. Maybe no. I think it's really tough to kind of find some of the areas. So when you look at, it's kind of interesting when you talk about like Morse Reservoir and Geist Reservoir. Man, you have houses that like sit on the water that are great. Like Eagle Creek is not like that. It's a little different.
Right.
So kind of have all these pockets that are like close to the water, but they're not really on the water. And things like that. So some townhomes, some condos and things like that around there as well, which I do think that's where they kind of the opportunity, if you're looking for rentals around there, I think that's where you want to look at, maybe like the townhomes or condos that you could possibly pick up to rent out around those areas versus like renting out homes. Or I don't think that rental market is there for like buying a home and renting it out there, but the condos definitely and stuff. But good area, solid area and stuff like that. If you find a fix and flip here, that's what you're going to look for. I think if you find a home that needs some work done to it, you can definitely, put that bad boy on the retail market after you fix it up, and you can go a little high end with what you're doing there and stuff. So, Randy, anything to add to that?
No, yeah. I mean, it's just that's the other big body of water that people like to go hang out at, boat along. But yeah, what makes kind of the Eagle Creek area pretty cool is like the park there. It's a really beautiful park, especially this time of year. I'm a plug the fall time in Indiana again. Favorite time. Don't forget it. But beautiful zone. Great park. But yeah, if you get any houses around here, if you could find a deal, I mean, that's a solid pickup for sure.
Yeah. So there are some new developments around there as well and stuff like that. Like kind of, I don't even know how they're fitting them in, but they seem to still be doing that and stuff. But you mentioned Eagle Creek Park. It is just a cool park. You're in a town, you're in the city for a couple of days and you have some time, like drive through or take a hike or, stuff like that. It's a pretty neat area. Things, good golf course as well out there. They also have like an aviary thing where you can go in and check out some like a bird sanctuary and stuff, which is pretty neat. I don't know what the official name of it is, but it's pretty neat. And then also you have Rick's Boatyard Cafe, so you can go hang out there, which is always a good time. You might see Alicia Drake there if you are there. So one of our favorite people here in Indy. So no, good stuff. So let's go on out past there then. So we got Brownsburg. Brownsburg is just a great area. You're going to be able to do a little bit of everything around there. So kind of just like we've talked about kind of with, what you could do in like Fishers and Noblesville and stuff like that. You can do the same thing over in Brownsburg. You can find some great houses to fix up and flip on the retail market. You can find some great rental properties. You can find some new developments. You can do some owner finance. You can do a little bit of everything in Brownsburg. Price points are still pretty good. They are starting to rise a little bit the closer you get kind of to the Traders Point area, the Eagle Creek area. I think the prices kind of do come up a little bit. There's some really cool little neighborhoods, little houses back in there and stuff. But then you also have like the Vinyl Village and the Cookie Cutter type places as well. So solid area all the way around. I grade this, kind of like a B plus type area, kind of even like A minus in some parts. So solid area. Yeah. So Randy is an investor. What our investors are really looking from there. I mean, Brownsburg has a little bit of everything for them.
Yeah, Brownsburg it's really kind of blown up over the years. A lot they just brought a lot there, but then also the school system has always been pretty good. And it's one of the better schools. I mean, known as one of the better schools outside the loop. And there's an old part of Brownsburg.
Their football team was on ESPN this year, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, he told me about that. Yeah, so there you go. They're on the map for sure. A good mix between old homes, like you get those small 3-1 brick ranches that investors love. Those are there, and then there's also the newer homes as well, from people that have built over the past 10 years there. So good mix of stuff. Overall, just a good community. You got flow come Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh's to the west of that. There's a lot of land out there, kind of new builds. So everyone kind of comes into Brownsburg to hang out. So that's like Brownsburg is kind of like the hub for everyone west of them
Yeah,
to come
everything
hang out
out
and
there.
do
So if you
stuff.
need to go, if you want to go bowling or you want to go to the mall or you go to
Yeah.
Brownsburg, that's like where you go and stuff. So Crawfordsville is kind of
Yeah.
on the other side. It's not big enough to have kind of a lot of that stuff that Brownsburg has. So a lot of people will come into Brownsburg. So you have a lot of stuff coming in there and things. All right. So if we're kind of moving around, kind of keep on moving around the loop there. So let's go ahead and I don't know. Let's go ahead and maybe just take on to Zionsville. You want to go ahead and go on over to there, or just basically, or just up the 465 area?
Yeah, so just north of Eagle Creek going up is not really too much going on. Still lots of land out there, but you don't really hit anything until you get above 465 there on that northwest corner. So you get into Zionsville, you get into kind of like the Whitestown area. So yeah, we can start talking about that.
Yeah, and I would just say, just kind of, because it is kind of one of those areas that, like, I don't really know what's going on here. There's not much there. There's not really like city development or anything. So if you look in between like Brownsburg and 65, really you're just going to find like a lot of grid streets. So basically, kind of, there's to be some turns in there, but basically a lot of grid streets. But there's just homes there, and people, and homes that you
Acreage,
can. Yep, that's what's there and stuff. So if you find houses there, I look at that as like, great flip opportunities if you can do that. Possibly some rentals too, if you do have that family, like, if you think, oh yeah, I want to pick up a rental, people want a little bit of land and want to be able to kind of raise their family there and rent out, that's fine. I look more of a flip area for any of that stuff along there. I think it's pretty good. But then moving back, kind of what you're saying, kind of coming on the other side of 65, then let's talk about Whitestown first. So Whitestown is like one of the biggest growing areas in Indiana over the last couple of years. So the development that you see in Whitestown is just huge. It's large, a lot of things going on. So there's basically like kind of the street that goes from kind of, you go off of Whitestown Parkway, if there's a street that basically goes from 65 over to like into Zionsville, go north of there, the street 650 East, that basically along there, you used to be able to drive that street and there was nothing there. There was nothing there until you actually got into the town of Whitestown. But now that you can't go past, like, now there's everything there, of like house after house after house after house. It's crazy, the amount of houses, the developments that are in there, of all different price points, all different ranges and things, of kind of what's going on. So now the town of Whitestown, of what used to be, now is actually kind of considered like what Whitestown is kind of down more around this area where there's like a lot of retail stuff, Hobby Lobby, TJ Maxx, and all the stuff that's just blown up over the last like year, honestly. So much stuff in there, and then all the houses that go along there as well.
Yeah. If you're driving down Whitestown Parkway, like you said, that's where all the new stuff's happening. The new subdivision. So people mistake that as Whitestown, like the town of Whitestown, but no, that's just the new part. Go up Main Street a little further, you'll find out where Whitestown really is, right? The small town. But so even like the heart of old Whitestown, I was called, I don't even know if that's even a term, but old Whitestown, very, very small, not much going on up there. Just small town Indiana, really. They've got a brewing company. So you just
actually one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite breweries in Indiana, right there. So Moontown Brewing, it's pretty cool. I'm going to plug this for a second. So they took an old school, and basically converted it into a brewery and stuff like that. But then they basically opened up the whole gymnasium, and like it's like this beer hall thing. So it's pretty cool and stuff. There's some things you can do, like in the old, like we'll call it old Whitestown. I think you can definitely pick up some rentals there. You can pick up some, you can do some fix and flip. One of the things there is, I do know that the water bill in Whitestown is incredibly expensive, which is something that investors have always told me about. People have told me about too, that even when they're selling their houses to us, they're like, hey, my water bill is like blah, blah, blah. Like, it's crazy. So it's actually one of the areas that you kind of would rather not be on city water and sewer. If you're on well and septic, you're actually better off kind of in that area, as far as now, as the way things are going and stuff. So just a little tip there. But yeah,
good tip, Brian.
Yeah. anything south of there, I mean, you're going to be able to do. I mean, I think it's one of those areas too. I think you can literally pick up a house and, pick up a new build and rent it out and stuff in some of these areas.
Yeah, so just south of like Whitestown, in that brewing company. So there's a subdivision which was like the one of the first new subdivisions that's kind of started this boom was Walker Farms. It's huge, but since that's now not the new place, tons of just you can get smaller vinyl village type homes there. Those would be great rentals. Because that's I mean the thing values and demand is still going up for Whitestown. That is already an established neighborhood, and it's not going to be as expensive as the stuff going on, down by the new development stuff. So if I were looking for an investment in Whitestown, I wanted kind of like that. If I was that cookie cutter buyer, low maintenance, I would definitely look in that Walker Farms neighborhood. You can get some 3, 2, 1 level homes that rent out all day long, and people want to live in Whitestown now, so it's not going to be hard to either sell it or rent it out.
Yeah, and then I just say this is one of those areas. I think it's the perfect situation of like, hey, I'm going to put this on my radar to follow up in 10 years of anything here. So if you're a buy and hold investor, all these people that are buying these houses now and fixing them up when they are 10 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years from now, when they're ready to move out into another area or go to a different part where they need to sell these houses, where you can pick up these houses for good value, because that's kind of what's going on, around like the Noblesville, Westfield area, some of these older subdivisions that people are buying out now and turning into great rental properties. I look at this as like a target of like, oh, this is exactly what's going to happen here, probably, 10 years down the road and stuff. So put it in your computer calendar, follow up 10 years. Here you go. Great rental market. So moving down then around, so we'll call it a new Whitestown then, kind of that area. If you go east, that's when you move into Zionsville. So Zionsville, I think is just, it's an incredible area that holds a lot of value. So if you're going to pick up a property there, I think in your mind, you could fix and flip, definitely 100%. I think that should be kind of your number one go-to. You could rent there and stuff, but you should sell it and try to get your money out. But yeah. I mean, there is a rental market there as well. But there's the downtown Zionsville itself. It's very hard to get into. You're going to pay a pretty penny for just a house that's not in that great a shape and stuff like that. But
yeah, exactly.
It's amazing. So taxes are one of the highest in the area as well in Zionsville. So be careful of that, but it's an amazing little town that you can basically, fix up a property and get very, very, very high value for it on the retail market. So
yeah, they've done a good job of keeping downtown Zionsville still feels small, but it is a town that is very spread out. But yeah, if anyone looking here to pick up something, I would definitely do it as a flip. The average price in Zionsville is $420,000, Brian.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yeah,
because it's so small on the map. But if anyone's ever been through it, you'll kind of quickly know why. You'll see the type of homes and really, really just a cool place to live. So with that high price point, definitely look for flips here.
Yeah. So then you get back into Carmel. So that kind of takes us around the loop for all this stuff. So Randy, when we kind of look at Indianapolis, and we kind of talked about, essentially kind of within that, maybe 20 minutes of the loop kind of thing in there, around there. When you look at anything outside of those areas, does anything stand out to you of, in any of the areas that we talked about of like, hey, go out a little bit further, what could you find? So a couple of areas that I'll kind of point out, and then I'll kind of turn it over to you. I kind of look at like the Shelbyville area that, a lot of the investors kind of want to look at, kind of want to take on. I look at that as, a solid rental market. I don't think I don't think you can really do high-end flips there in a cat. You can do some fix and flips and, some smaller stuff, maybe some quick flips. You can look into that. I look at it as a rental market there. One of the areas I do really like that we kind of talk about Franklin, kind of left out the Bargersville area. Really like the Bargersville area, kind of what's going on around there. I know they did have a little situation where the city was trying to make all the basically the landlords responsible for paying the utilities for the tenants. That ended up getting overturned and stuff like that. But really cool area, and a lot of kind of an area that is kind of a neat little downtown, and then growing, expanding out past there is Bargersville. I think is a really cool area as well. That's where Taxman Brewing is kind of a local brewery that has different spots around town. That's where I kind of got started down there. Pretty cool area. But Randy, any other areas that stick out to you? I know before we jumped on the show, you were kind of talking about Lebanon or Lebanon, however you want to say
it. I call it Lebanon. You got to say it with that Indiana voice. No, Lebanon's really, I've seen people go in there and do quick flips. So you can come in and flip a home under $100,000. So it's one of those areas it's kind of similar. It's like a little neighborhood that you would kind of find the type of homes inside the loop in Indy, but it's in Lebanon. And as far as like price point and style of home. So that's a cool area to kind of look out for some quick flip deals. And also I got to bring up Cicero in Arcadia. That's kind of my zone. I live in Cicero. So it looks far on the map, but it's not too far away from everything that Hamilton County and Indy has to offer. But it is very, there's 2 small towns. So it's another area where you can come in, and if you could find something that's in like the heart of those towns, very, very low price. And those areas are growing because everything in Hamilton County is moving north. And those are the next 2 areas that you'll see more development and or more people coming in and just wanting to live there.
Yeah. So I kind of, in that same little vein, I kind of put Sheridan in there as well. Just some stuff kind of going around there as Westfield and, Carmel expanding, kind of Sheridan, kind of the same thing going on. They don't have, obviously the Morse Reservoir like Cicero does. It's a main feature there and things, but go ahead.
No, I was gonna say we never mentioned Pendleton on this one.
I know, that's what I was just gonna do next. There we go.
Okay.
So, all right. So another area I think is great as far as just outside the loop. It's a little bit further, but just a great market in general. A really cool little downtown is Pendleton. I think we've talked about Pendleton on here before and stuff, but there's some really cool things going on around there. So it's actually kind of tough to find properties in there because they're selling for high value on the retail market and things. Done a couple little deals around there and things, but I think it's a really good little area that if you are doing some fix and flips and can find something in Pendleton, jump on it. I think it's a really good opportunity. The rental market, I don't know about the rental market there. I feel like it's just, every time I go there, I know that seems like a lot of families and stuff are living there. So I don't know enough about the rental market there. I apologize for that. But I look at it as a good fix and flip area and stuff. And then another area that we haven't talked about, but we should mention, because I knew a lot of investors do look at it, is Anderson. I feel like everybody, no matter what every investor, I feel like has a story about Anderson, and they have a very polarizing view of Anderson, kind of thing. But it is for what it is. So you're going to get cheap properties there, and you can find some decent value there. But you need to make sure that you understand kind of where it is and things. So Anderson was kind of one of those areas. We used to do a lot of deals in Anderson, and then, we would do well on some, and then we'd really struggle on other deals and things. So it really is, I looked at, like, kind of broke down Anderson into certain areas, and I realized, like, okay, whenever we buy in this area, for example, kind of that like southwest corner of like the downtown, like we struggled, like we like almost always lost money whenever we did a deal there. So make sure you kind of know kind of where you are and where you need to be. If you're doing Anderson, same thing too. If you're using a property manager, make sure that they are a property manager that is working in Anderson, use the Anderson market, that type of stuff. So there's always stories I hear about, like, oh, they're going to fix up they're going to do or fix up around the dam and around the reservoir and stuff in Anderson, and they're going to do this. And seems like there's always big plans. I haven't seen anything kind of come through and do that, but I do know some investors that are successful in Anderson as well, and stuff. So like I said, ask around about Anderson, talk to people that are doing what you want to be doing when it comes to Anderson, because I feel like a lot of people have differing stories on kind of what they can do in Anderson and what they can't. So,
yeah.
All right, Mr. Randy, any other little things you want to point out, or in any other little areas?
No, I think we hit pretty much. I mean, we gave between this episode and the last episode a lot of areas for people to consider. And I just like doing these because obviously everyone knows right now it's inventory is tough to find. And I hope what people are taking away from this is, hey, since inventory is tough to find, let me start looking at these other areas outside of the loop, just to help anyone looking for their next deal. Because if you're stuck and it's been a month or so since you found a deal that you can move on inside the loop, it's time to start looking at other avenues. And I think we pointed out a lot of different areas that people can start looking at, and still just kind of move forward with their real estate investing quest, and maybe just open their eyes on some new strategies, new zones. And I think it's going to help out a lot of people knowing the area around
Yep.
Indy.
Definitely. And I think it's something too of like kind of this stigma is always like, oh, I can't afford anything outside the loop. I need to stay inside the loop and stuff. Now that, I mean, I think in the Indy investor market has been, it's been around forever and stuff, but I feel like the strength of it really what we've seen over the last 5 years of those people that were, kind of get into it 5 years ago now, they're ready to kind of refinance some of those, the smaller houses and stuff, and they're ready to kind of move on to some bigger ones. This is that, if you refinance, 2 or 3 properties, in the downtown that are a little bit smaller, picking up one of the bigger properties on one of the outside might be one of the moves that you can do and stuff as well. So,
Yep.
All right. I think that is about it. So we kind of went all around Indy outside the loop. Hopefully we kind of gave you guys some insights. If you have any other questions about any other areas or anything outside further than that, we might have some stories for you that we'd love to share, or you can just, feel free to send us over any questions, anything like that when it comes to like areas like, Bloomington or Muncie or Frankfurt or, Newcastle, things like that. So I got some stories about some of those, but we just kind of wanted to focus on a little bit closer, but outside the loop of Indy. So hopefully that helped you out. Let us know if we can help you in any way. And with that, we will see you guys next time on the Indy Investor Pod. Take care.